You're listening to Radio France International. Time now for our special guest, and it's 5 years since same-sex marriage was legalised here in France, and not without very, very significant opposition. The movement against gay marriage was well organised, vociferous, and mobilised huge numbers of people onto the streets. The law was, though, duly passed in Parliament, and since then just under 40,000 same-sex couples have married. Well, a new website has chosen the anniversary date for its launch. It's called Komitid and is aimed at LGBT visitors and more. Joining me in the studio now is one of the team of journalists at Komitid, Fabien, Jannic, Cherbonnel. He, of course, used to work here with us at Radio France International. I'm sure you recognise the name. Fabien, then, tell us, who is this new website aimed at? And was there a gap in the market which you hope to fill?
So basically, our goal is to speak to the French LGBT plus population, but not just LGBT people. We want to talk to everybody who could one day be interested by LGBT topics, because of course, everybody has a gay friend or a lesbian, sister, and we think that this website can interest everyone, but our main audience will be LGBT plus people in France. We think we have a space because sadly there's no other mainstream LGBT media in France right now. Basically, the main one used to be Tétu, but they shut down about 2 weeks ago. There used to be another one called YAG, but it also shut down about 2 years ago. So we are the only one right now, and we do want to provide information about LGBT issues that you can't find anywhere else.
And you say those other two shut down. Was that for funding? And how are you funded?
Well, it's a good question, actually. In both cases, yes, it's lack of funding. Probably they could find a big enough audience for the website to be sustainable. So what our difference is, I think, is that we have what we call a freemium model, where most of the websites, short articles, will be accessible for free. And then we have longer pieces, reports, interviews, stuff you can only find on our website that you will have to get a subscription monthly or yearly to access them. And basically it's really cheap. It's about €450 a month. And we think it's a very balanced model where we wouldn't need a huge amount of people for us to make some money, or at least to be sustainable with the website.
Okay, so you'll know in some time whether that's working or not. Let's take a look back to 2012, 2013, so the run-up and the eventual passing of the law legalising same-sex marriage. Were you, as were many people, surprised by the level of opposition in France to that? Compared to other quite similar countries, I'm thinking of the UK, Portugal, where there was very little noise about it, the laws were passed fairly quickly.
Absolutely. No, I was surprised, I think, and I think everybody was surprised by the huge amount of people took to the streets back in 2012 and 2013. What I think not a lot of people were expecting religious people to actually be that against gay marriage and be that vocal against same-sex marriage, and we were surprised. Now, actually, when you talk to LGBT people or member of the community in France, it was quite traumatic for the community. All those people who protested against their rights, against our rights, and told us basically, well, you're not worth the same thing that we are. And it was, I think, shocking for a lot of people.
Do you have any idea why France was different in that respect to other countries? Has any research been done?
I think it's probably ongoing. I think it comes down to politics and the way the law was passed, the way the government at the time allowed the debate to drag on for about a year. And so that left a lot of time for the opposition to organize. And I think France is still, at its core, at least part of France, deeply religious. And I think that's what, you touch to marriage, which is for religious people very important. And I think that's what happened.
I think people say that compared to Portugal, they had already become exhausted after a very big abortion debate. And so, although it's a very Catholic country, it wasn't so much of an issue there. The leader of the Les Républicains in France, the mainstream right-wing party, was out on the streets protesting against it with those people in 2012, now says he has no intention of trying to turn that law back. It will stay in place. Most people who protested against it appear now to accept it, to think it was fine, I got it wrong, or to think, well, in any case, I can't change it. Do you find that life is easier, better for gay people in France?
I would say life has improved because at least when you turn on the telly, every day there's not someone telling you you're living your life the wrong way. So that's good. But there's still a lot of homophobia in France. There's still a lot of people being discriminated against, especially trans people, especially women. So yes, it is a bit better. And we do have more visibility, which is always a good thing. But we're still not there yet. There's still a lot of work to be done. When you look at countries like Sweden and Norway, for example, where discrimination is there's less discrimination when it comes to LGBT people, well, we should aim for that. And there's still a lot of work to be done in France.
Now, a lot of people who were opposed to gay marriage have now turned their attention to the issue of children and whether same-sex couples should be allowed to have their own children. Let's be clear, they can adopt.
Absolutely.
But for couples who desire to have their own children, it's the question of whether single women and lesbian couples should be allowed assisted reproduction.
Absolutely.
And whether homosexual gay couples should be allowed to use surrogate mothers. Now, that's a very live political issue in France. There's an enormous amount of debate on it. The questions being raised. And Macron has decided to tackle this as an ethical issue rather than an equal rights issue. And some of the arguments are that children's rights need to be considered. Do children need a parent of both sexes? Also the question of whether surrogacy is leading to a sort of commercialisation of pregnancy. What will your website have to say on those issues? Are you having all sorts of debates about it, or do you take a clear line?
Well, first I want to point out that surrogacy is not in question in France. The government is against it. Most people in France are against it. That will remain illegal. The debate really is about whether lesbian and single mothers or single women could use assisted reproduction to have a child. And Macron has pledged to legalize it in a few months. Our website, we are of course going to talk about it, but we don't have a position as a website where we want, of course, it's for we want assisted reproduction to be legalized for gay women and for single women, but we'll allow, of course, because we're journalists, some space for people who are against it, because inside the community, inside the LGBT community, you do have people who are against it. You also have people, a lot of people against surrogacy, and I think even amongst gay people, not everybody's for it. And we will follow the debates, we will follow those topics, and we'll, have many different voices, because of course we are not an NGO, we are a media outlet, so we want everybody to be able to speak in our columns.
And finally, what's on your website today? What's on the front page, and what stories can we expect to see?
Well, basically today our main biggest story is on how adoption was legalized for gay couples in 2013, and we have a story today on how it's still extremely hard to adopt a child when you are a gay couple, whether two men or two women. What you can look forward to, well, we do a lot of international things, and tomorrow we have an article coming up on Kenya, because the High Court is supposed to give out a ruling on whether or not homosexuality should be forbidden in Kenya. So that's very interesting. We've talked to activists there. Okay,
thanks very much. Fabien, Jannic, Cherbonnel with us there. The website is Komitid. Take a look. It's in French, I think. Only.
Absolutely.
And remember, you can always listen to us at rfienglish.com. You can write to us at parislive@rfi.fr. That's it from all of us. Do take care until we meet again. Bye-bye.